this is Aline from MasterYourWeb. You're watching HTML tutorial for absolute beginners, and in this video we will discuss about the submit button. So in our example we had a form which was submitting some data, but let's actually go into more details. So when you click on the submit, you are actually sending some data to the server. But what actually is a server? Well, a server is nothing but a dedicated computer used for processing and storing information. And the server processes that data and then comes back to us with some sort of response. And that's called the client-server communication. And if you look online, you will see like a lot of nice images that describes the client-server communication. So in our case, that's going to be us with our form. And basically when we submit the button, we send a request to a specific server, which in our case, we basically send the first name and the last name. And then the server comes back to us with a response, saying something like, welcome first name and the last name, or something similar, okay? And a really nice use case for this could be like a sign-in form in which you as a client send in a username and a password. You make a request to the server. That server checks whether you are who you say you are. And then the server comes back with a response saying that, okay, you are logged in. And that's basically it. So the way we add a request to the server via forms is with the action attributes. So the action attribute will need the name of the file, which will process that request and eventually send it to a server to store it. After adding the name, when we submit the form, the request will go automatically to that location for processing. Let's create an example and see what happens. So in our case, as I mentioned, we need to write the action attribute is equal to, let's put the name of my server code.php, okay? And let's try to save it and look into the browser. I've added the slash in the beginning because this file is technically supposed to be in the same folder as the HTML tutorial 1.html. So let's actually see what's going to happen when we click on the submit this button. Can you guess what's going to happen? Well, basically that specified file that we've added cannot be found, and therefore we are noticed about that. And that's totally fine. We won't cover the PHP side of things here because it's going to be a pretty complex topic, but I think that you get the idea. So once we create a PHP file and handle the request, we can send some response back to the client. I've chosen the PHP because it could be a bit simpler to just create a file, but other languages have the same capabilities. Okay, so the next thing that we should talk right now is the method attribute, and for now we should be aware of two methods. So we have the get method, which is the one that we've used so far. Get method displays the key value pairs in the search bar. For instance, when we submit this, we have the key of first name test and a value of Aline, and another key of last name test and the value of Saint-Martin. So basically, as you can see, since we are adding the key value pairs into the search bar, we shouldn't use this method when we are dealing with sensitive data. For instance, username, passwords, bank accounts, and whatsoever. That's a big no-no.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
And for that I will give you an example. And in the application, let's pretend that we want to create like a username field and a password field, okay? Alright, so let's actually pretend that this is going to be a field for the username, and I've added like my username. I'll write my password, submit this form, and I think that you can notice the downside, which is going to be the fact that we have the username exposed and also the password. So that's not a good way to enter user data into a form. But then when should we use the GET request? Well, we could use it when we have some data which is not that important. For instance, when you Google something, as I've did with the client-server communication, you can see that the request is being present over here, okay? So basically, this means the fact that Google uses the GET request for searching stuff, which is totally fine. A nice benefit in using GET request is that the request can be bookmarked by us, and also it can be useful for indexing that page. That means that it could appear higher in the list when you search something like that on Google. Then we have our second method, which is the post method. Post method is a way to send data to the server without the browser URL knowing about it. Therefore, as I mentioned, it's a safe way to send sensitive information. However, this comes with the downside of the fact that the request cannot be bookmarked, and also they cannot be indexed by Google. That means that you won't be able to save the URL in the browser, nor search for it. And as I mentioned, when we just write like a simple form, the default method is going to be the get one, okay? We can totally specify it, such as method is equal to get. So we can do something like this, method is equal to get, okay? And that's going to do the exact same thing as right now, okay? And basically I think that you can imagine that the post is going to be like this, okay? And you will see a difference, because if I delete it and type again my username and my password, then we submit this form, you can see that the URL is not being updated again. So that's pretty nice. Another difference that I've previously said was with bookmarking, okay? And I'm referring to this star over here. And for the post request, I have the option like to bookmark this page and add a bookmark, okay? But that's going to bookmark only like the HTML tutorial 1.html, okay? However, if we change the method back to get, and click OK, clicks enter some data, submit this form, we actually have the possibility to bookmark the page also with the username and with the password. So that's also a nice difference. So I think that was all for this video. We won't have any exercises this time, but I hope that you will learn something new and see you each other in the next video where we will discuss about different types of inputs. We'll see you then. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the content and if you consider that it's at least 1% relevant, then please leave a like, a share and subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you on the next one.